Hi, everyone. Welcome to Radiant Living, Inspiring Humanity to Thrive. This is Marisa B, your host, and today I have with me Conny Jasper. Conny has an MA in psychology. She is a visionary artist, writer, professional consultant, and she coaches individuals in life and career success. Hi, Conny. Welcome today.
Hi. Thank you so much.
Oh, I thank you for coming. I'd like to ask you, first of all, how did you come to the healing arts?
I got started in my mid-20s. When I was going to college to get my bachelor's degree, my first major was art, and that's what I wanted to pursue. But I took this elective class in political science, and during the political science course, I began to open up and become more aware of the problems that we have in this world. And I thought, oh my gosh, the world is so full of problems. I want to do something to help people. So I sort of had this existential crisis. And so after some consideration, I decided to switch my major to psychology. And I continued to study that path. And then a little later, in my late 20s, I began to open up spiritually. I'm not quite sure what the catalyst was, but just something in me was calling out. And I started to read a lot of books about spirituality and open up and become more aware of those kind of modalities and energies.
It's funny because as a psychologist myself, I know that many of my clients say that talk therapy is not cutting it for them. They need more. And of course, I've been doing this quite a while, and I've gotten involved more with the healing arts as an umbrella for helping individuals. Now, what were some of the things that you learned when you first got started? Because of course you have the traditional training like I do, and then you went into the healing arts as well. So what were some of the first things that you learned?
Okay, well, when you're studying psychology, you're learning mostly from textbooks.
Yes,
And,
exactly.
Over the years, I've come to realize that learning from textbooks is not really real life. You're learning about the theorists and the theories, and it's interesting, and you can see how some of it can apply in real life. But once you begin to get out there and work with people, you begin to see the difference. And also, I found that traditional psychology, the textbook stuff, wasn't broad enough. It wasn't holistic. So as I opened up spiritually and began to study the more spiritual aspects of healing, I brought in that holistic side and was able to combine the two.
Now, did you come to find some, I guess, difficulties or some initial challenges with that?
Yeah, there definitely were some. One was other people and their perspectives. And I started studying spirituality a long time ago. I'm in my 60s now, and I started this when I was in my 20s. So this was back in the early 80s. And people weren't as open to spiritual information and spiritual energies. And, there was often that, oh, you believe that stuff? So there was some resistance in that respect. And then also one of the challenges I met with was dealing with my own issues and working on my own issues.
Well, I found that with me, even though clients might have been willing to try alternative methods in conjunction with traditional therapies, the professionals were not happy with it. The professionals did not want to be all-encompassing. In fact, sometimes they even looked down on therapists, right, who were offering these additional services. So I know that sometimes still goes on, I believe, with, I don't want to say the older therapists, but maybe those practicing longer, I'll say. that they have
Yeah.
that kind of mentality still, which is kind of sad. But how did you overcome that? Because you've been doing this a while and you have a lot of clients. How did you overcome that with maybe the stigma from other therapists?
I guess, you know, there was something in me that didn't care what other people thought. I just really believed in it, and I just knew it in the core of my soul. I just knew I was on the right path, and that even though it had its challenges, I kept going and just kept learning more and more and applying
Mhm.
it more and more.
And now, what type of healing methods do you use, or have you trained? Because of course, as you know, we always, especially with licensing, you have to train. You have to provide
Yes.
continuing education credits. So I'm sure, like me, you've done a gamut of courses. What do you specialize in, or do you specialize in anything in the healing field?
Well, I have this list here in front of me, and I can't remember it all off the top of my
Mm-hmm.
head, so I'm going to read it from the list. I've studied meditation, and I think that meditation is a very important aspect of healing. It's incredibly holistic, and it helps with so many different things. I've studied massage therapy and somatic healing, and I
Okay,
believe
body,
that
yes.
bringing in that somatic piece, that, you know, the body, because the body
Mm-hmm.
and the mind work together, they're not separate. I've studied Gestalt psychotherapy.
Mm-hmm.
Not too many people know what that is, but
Yeah.
it's about how you're feeling and what you're thinking in the moment and
Mm-hmm.
working with the present moment. I've studied shamanic healing, which is really interesting and goes very deep and uses energy in an amazing way.
Mm-hmm.
I studied Reiki, and I became a Reiki master, and I became a certified
Mm-hmm.
uh, yoga instructor.
Yeah. Yes. So you've taken a lot of the same path as I have. I've done a
Yeah,
lot of those to add into additional continuing education credits. And I have to agree, the somatic part, the body included,
yeah.
because we do feel in our bodies, even if we don't know why we're feeling that at the time. We know that we're feeling something somewhere. Right when somebody has an issue, it hits them in a certain area of the body. So it's it's good to bring that in, not to push it to the side and not to keep it separate, really, as you said,
Absolutely.
body,
Yeah.
mind, and spirit. Um, Now, I do want to talk a little bit about your book because I think it's wonderful. You created a workbook for people,
Yeah.
the Positive Power
Mhm.
Workbook. Here it is. I actually have it. Let me make sure that's not glowing there. There it is. And I love it. It's the idea of the thinking and acting that facilitates a way of living. How did you come to decide to write this book?
Okay. Well, going back to the traditional psychology and traditional psychotherapy, a lot of it is talk and just, you know, talking about your problems. This happened in the past, that
Mm-hmm.
happened in the past, or this happened at home right now, or that happened at the office right now. And it's good to talk about some of that and get some of that out. But I began to realize that there's so much more to a healing than just talking about your problems. That's one of the things when I was going to a therapist myself, was there was that constant talking about my problems. And of course, you know, my therapists were good listeners and were very compassionate, you know, did offer me some support and guidance, but I didn't feel like they were giving me a complete tool set. And I began to realize that you needed a tool set. Okay, once you get that problem out, once you talk about it and recognize it and
Mm-hmm.
understand it and process it, what are you going to replace it with? You know,
Right,
because
exactly.
one of the things I found that, okay, I'd cry in my therapy session and I'd feel good for a couple of days, but then I'd feel depressed again.
Mm-hmm.
And I began to realize you have to replace that. You have to bring in the
Mm-hmm.
positive energy. You have to bring in the healthy energy, the healing energy. What's going to bring you back into balance? And so I began to study like cognitive behavioral types of
Mhm.
therapies and understanding affirmations. And a lot of people back then, when I first started studying this, would scoff at it.
Yes.
That's silly. You're just saying this positive affirmation and that's going to change everything. Well, just saying it once or twice, no, it's not going to change everything. It's a process. You have to keep doing it. So I came up with a whole list of topics in life and a whole list of affirmations for different areas of life. And I sat down and wrote and wrote and wrote, and I came up with this book, and I self-published it.
I mean, it's a wonderful tool to actually practice daily.
Yeah.
I think that we often, well, I know with traditional therapy, apart from talking about the past, bringing up wounds of the past, what I didn't like was all the labeling, label.
Oh, yeah.
I know that it's a talk for another day, but also they do that in schools with children. There's constant labeling. And I noticed that just because there's a label on something doesn't mean that then you know how to assist in the healing because you put a label on it. And so I found that something like this, for example, your book, that's really something that is a tool that you're using daily yourself in part of your tool bag to heal, to feel well, to greet the day. Now, let me ask you a little bit about the healing process, because do you think that, I know that some people want to come and they want the quick fix. Explain to me a little bit about how healing works. As another therapist, tell the audience, really how it works.
Well, that's important, because healing is a process. It takes time. And I'm always telling my clients, it takes time. Be patient. There is no magic pill. There is no magic wand. I can't just wave a magic wand and make you all better. It takes time, and you really have to be patient with that process and let it happen, because a lot of this stuff, it depends on what it is. It depends on what your experience is, what you've been dealing with. A lot of that stuff is so deep, and there are core issues going on, and you have to you can't bring it all out at once, because that would be way too much. So it has to come out little by little, a little at a time. You have to peel away the layers.
Right, exactly. And of course, there are different methods to do that.
Yes.
Do you think that that healing is linear? Would you say that it's a linear process?
Absolutely not. It has its ups and downs. And sometimes you're going to take 2-3 steps forward and take another step back. But that's part of how life is. We have these patterns, and we're familiar with certain things that we do and say and think and feel. And we have this tendency to go back to what we're familiar with. So, if you've moved forward and you've experienced some healing, you might encounter some sort of stress, and that might take you back a little bit. So we have to understand that that's what happens. It doesn't mean you're doing something wrong or that you're not healing. It's just part of that process.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And as you said, I know I've dealt with a lot of people with addiction.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. Just because one falls, you're not bad. You're not wrong. You just have to pick yourself up and go again. It does happen. It's not linear. It's not like tomorrow you'll be well and it's all over.
Exactly.
So it is a process. And of course, it's a process that you have to work on yourself. There's no getting around it. You have to want to change. As you said, we have a tendency of falling back into the same patterns. All of us. I mean, I'm guilty of that just as much as everybody else. That's just what we know, and it's often comfortable, I believe, and it's often safe, or to us it's safe, and so that's why we go back there. So I know that people who really change have worked very, very hard.
Exactly. It's a lot of work.
Yes, and it's as you said, there are clients that come that feel that maybe we have a magic wand or the magic bullet that you're going to give them and they're going to change in a day. It doesn't work that way. But I think people get frustrated. How do you deal with that with clients?
Well, I think the frustration is part of the process. And I understand that because I have felt it myself, like, why isn't this working? Or why is this taking so long? Or I felt like I dealt with this already. Why is this happening again? But to understand that you just have to keep going, keep using the tools, keep doing the work, because it does get better. And that's very important to remind people to hang in there, to stay with it. You will get better. Life will get better, because it really does.
It does. And I think that just because something may happen as you're doing the work, because that's life. And often, as we all know, we really can't control anything. We're lucky if we can control ourselves, but we can't really control anything. And so there are things that from life that come into play in our life. But as you're working along, it doesn't mean that because that occurred that particular day, or because this happened to you, or that was said to you, that now all of the work that you did before is gone and you have to start all over again. No, you really just pick up from where you are and you move forward. I think that's kind of the important part of the tools that we provide for clients.
Yeah, you have to form a base, a foundation.
Right. Yeah. And I don't think that that means that every single day you're going to be laughing and giddy and happy. I mean, that's not the way it is. But that doesn't mean that you're not going to have a bigger, brighter life by working on things. I mean, did you feel that same way?
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
And then let me ask you, what how would someone know if they're healing? Have you had that? I know a couple of my clients have asked me, well, I don't know if this is working. I don't know how long am I supposed to be doing this? When will I feel better? Do you have, I'm sure you've had clients say that as well.
Yes. Well, it's not easy to gauge because everybody is different and everybody has their own journey. They have their own path to follow. They have their own healing process. And some people get it more quickly than others. And it depends also on what the wounds are, what are the traumas. The more challenging the wounds are and the traumas, the longer it's going to take. And as I said, you really have to be patient with that process and recognize where your successes are. Acknowledge those successes, and I think that sometimes people, when they're in emotional turmoil, don't recognize where their successes are, and you have to the guide, the coach, the counselor, the therapist has to point them out. But wait a minute, I know you're saying that this is a problem, but look what you've done with this.
Right, it's exactly what you say. It's the small things, really, the little things.
Yes, the little things.
That's the important. I mean, and that is a success. And everybody's success is different.
Yes.
That's how I look at it. I mean, there are people who are severely traumatized. So just getting out of bed early the next morning and taking 5 minutes to be mindful, that is a massive accomplishment for them.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes.
So that's, healing comes in all forms. Do you find that you have people asking you or telling you, I'm healed now? I mean, do you feel that people can be healed completely, that there's a point where they're healed?
Oh, that's a really good question, because I think there are people who say that, and I don't think they're realizing what's really going on. Maybe they've accomplished something big and they've had a big success, but that doesn't mean you're fully healed and that there is no more to deal with. There's always more to deal with. And I think people have to be careful with that kind of thinking, that you can just get to a place where that's it and you don't have to do any more. It's a lifelong thing, really. No matter how much you've achieved, no matter how much you've accomplished, there's always more. And I believe you can heal yourself all the way up until you're done with this lifetime. And even that transition when you're passing from this body into the next realm, whatever that is, you know, that's a healing also.
Yes, I again, I have to concur. I find that even if people say they're healed, and they could very well be healed of the issue that they wanted to be healed
Yes.
from, but that doesn't mean you throw away all the tools. I think that in order to continue on in life, you should be bringing those tools with you. Now, you may not use all of them, correct? I mean, you may pick and choose, but I always think that it's still your arsenal to go forth every day. Because what would be what would be the sense of then tossing away all of the tools and not using them any longer? You may find yourself in another turmoil or with other traumas that maybe you didn't know about or that come afterwards. I mean, I think that it's an entire way of living that you take with you.
Yes, and you never know what life is going to throw at you. You may heal something, but then down the road somewhere you have to deal with something else that comes up in your life.
Right. Well, that brings me to the question of the fact of a physical healing and a spiritual or a mental healing.
Yeah.
That can you speak to that a little bit?
What was the question again?
Okay. About the physical healing and a spiritual or mental healing.
Okay, well, there is and isn't a difference between them because they're all connected. We're complete beings, we're whole beings, and healing is holistic. So we need to heal ourselves mentally, we need to heal ourselves physically, we need to heal ourselves spiritually. So, you know, there's energy involved and, you know, all these aspects of ourselves. And we have to bring them into balance because the mind affects the body and the body affects the mind, and the energies we create, the energies that are around us impact us also. So we have to work with ourselves on all those levels. And, you know, I think sometimes when people have a physical illness, all they have to do is heal themselves physically, and that's enough. But it really isn't, because there are these other aspects, and you want to be careful once you've healed yourself physically not to bring back that physical illness.
Right.
Also the same, healing yourself mentally and emotionally, you know, because your thinking and your emotions impact your body.
Right. And when we mean physical healing, we don't mean necessarily a broken foot or a fractured wrist. We're talking about physical and as far as inside as well, because as I was saying earlier, we feel inside. So we know that things are going on inside us physically on the physical plane. So of course it has to go hand in hand. I mean, and we know that medically with stress and how it affects blood pressure. And so naturally we know that there are things going on with us physically when our emotional well-being and our spiritual well-being is not addressed.
That's true. Yes.
So, and now I know I did want to speak a little bit. I know you do a lot of events. Well, because I think you're in the Northeast as well as I am. And so we were hit severely with the pandemic. So now people are beginning to get out. Now I know you do a lot of events. And you bring a lot of products too, right? You have a lot of products that you bring along with your events. That you sell, correct?
Mostly herbs. I believe in holistic healing, that using herbs as much as possible and nutritious foods is really important to how you function physically, and also it affects you mentally and emotionally. You know, you're a whole system and all of it works together. You know, a lot of times synthetic medications have side effects.
All of them do, right? They all do.
Yeah.
Right now, as you said, whether every side effect affects you or only the few affect you, but there's still things that affect you. It's true.
Yeah.
And you're right. The whole system, and I find that too. I mean, I'm not against Western medicine, but I don't believe that an individual needs to take 5 or 6 pills to get them moving.
And I've known some people who've been on 10 to 12 different medications, and I just don't think that's a good idea.
No, I've actually had clients come that have been on many medications and we have slowly weeded some of them out.
Well, that's
of
good,
course, with the help of a medical doctor. Of course, they have not discontinued seeing their medical doctor, but we have attempted to get them off of some of the medications.
Yeah.
And I think I have to agree with you that the herbal remedies more or less assist us. There's not a possibility of side effect.
Yeah.
I'm sure if somebody took something incorrectly, maybe, or they took too much of it, there might be something that goes on, but I'm not sure if there are side effects.
Well, even too much coffee,
right?
All that caffeine that you're constantly putting into your body is overtaxing to your nervous system.
Yes, well, it's true. And I think if we have to process everything out through our liver.
And the kidneys.
Right. I mean, then, you have to think of giving it a break, right? I mean, if it's overworking all the time, because it's really trying to assist you. It's trying to assist you to get out these poisons, toxins, if that's what you want to call them, out. And so it's overworking all the time.
Yeah.
Now, do you use herbal remedies with your clients? Or do you
I make suggestions? It all depends on what they're open to and what's going on with them. I make a lot of suggestions, and herbalism can be a little expensive too, and they're not covered by insurance. So it depends on the person's budget and what they're willing to be open to, and it also takes time to either go to the store and get them. Some people have issues with being out in public, and
of course, especially now after the pandemic. I have some clients that are still strictly telehealth. They still have not really ventured out into larger crowds. Some have come back, but a lot of them are not comfortable. They might go to a store, but they're not comfortable in going to large crowds of people. And that's their prerogative at this point. But I think I agree with you. First of all, that's an issue about not being covered by insurance.
Yeah.
Sometimes it amazes me that these decisions that are made, and I know that it's not the medical field making the decision. I have to believe that it's the insurance field that makes the decision, that often it's easier for them to pay for medications than pay for something that may solve the problem, whether it's a procedure, a test, something different than just medication. I don't know, maybe because people feel that it might be a quick fix to swallow a pill. They think that that's where the answer lies. And I don't know necessarily if that's their reasoning behind taking it. I know that a lot of people feel that perhaps the medical field has more power or more knowledge, and so maybe they listen. But I would think that to try maybe herbal is better at first. Because that may not necessarily do so much damage to your body.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I have always, all the clients that I've worked with, that and it isn't that I've told them to come off medication. I've had them actually come to me and say, listen, I'm taking a lot of medication here and I don't want to take it anymore. I never suggest stopping everything at one time. No, that's impossible.
That's not a good idea.
No, that's not right.
Thing,
Yeah. And of course they have a medical doctor. They have to speak with the medical doctor. So I can assist them in working towards getting off some of the medications, but you still have to be talking with your MD, and
absolutely,
and you still shouldn't stop anything without discussing it with them. You just don't stop one day, because can be detrimental to your health. So, but I know that, like, for example, I try to make herbal concoctions myself to hope that works better at first than having to worry about going on to medications. But I believe what you say. It's that it depends on the client that you're talking to at the time.
And
go ahead.
Yeah, also herbs often take a little more time than medications. Medications work instantly, whereas herbs take some time to heal your body. Yes. So again, you have to be patient with the process.
Yes, exactly. And it is a thing of patience. It's definitely the concept of patience with it, because it takes longer. The same with using the tools. As we said earlier, it might take longer than you expect it to take, but that doesn't mean that it's wrong, that it's incorrect, that you haven't taken to the task correctly. Because I think a lot of clients blame themselves. Right? I mean, at least I find that they think that they should be healed in a month or a week, or they compare with someone else, that person went and got help and now they're fine. But it is an ongoing journey. And I think that as therapists, we can only explain that and then be there for them, right? Because some they come and they go too. Some are not ready. I mean, at least that's what I find. I'm sure you find that as well. Some clients, they come one day and then they're just not ready.
That's true. That's true. They come for 1 session, 3 sessions, and then you don't see them again because, they're, like you said, they're not ready. They don't have that openness to go with that process. Right.
They're not at that stage at that time that they come. But that's not to say that they don't come back later or come to healing later. Now, where do you go from here? I mean, you're so busy with clients, you do a lot of events. Where do you go from here? What are you doing further? Say down the line, what's the future hold?
Okay, well, I am working on another book, and I'm hoping to have that published by the spring.
Oh, lovely.
And I'm planning a workshop in the spring also, a workshop on self-care. And it's all about giving people the tools to heal themselves, the mental tools, the emotional tools, the physical tools, and lots of different ways to, care for themselves on an ongoing basis and make their lives better and improve their lives.
Now, do you work online as well as in person?
Yes.
Yes, I suspect we've all had to pivot in that direction in order to help clients. We've had to go online, because I have to tell you the truth, prior to the pandemic, I was not online at all. My clients were strictly one-on-one in person. And then in order to provide services, I had to go online, and now I'm still online. So now, do you do your workshops also online? I mean, I know you do events in person, because I've gone to some events and some of the bigger venues. So I wonder how you're doing these types of classes and courses and seminars.
I prefer in person. I haven't done any events or workshops online. I really prefer in-person events and workshops, and I even prefer in-person coaching and counseling, although that's not always possible. But it's so much better when you're there in the presence of the other person. There's an energy there that I find that isn't the same online.
Right. I mean, I have heard that too. I mean, I have to agree with that, because it's, the people are in the room together. So there is that energy. But I do offer online, because there are some that are just not yet ready to get back into the world for whatever reasons that they may have. But you're in the Northeast, correct? So
Yes,
your
I'm in New
events are,
Jersey. Yeah.
you're in New Jersey. So your events are always in New Jersey.
Most. Uh-huh.
Now, can people reach you online if they want? I mean, is there a way of reaching you? I know some clients may ask because some people want to know. I will put in the description how
Okay.
they can contact you,
Mhm.
because I know that they're going to want to ask questions as to perhaps what, people shop around. That's how I put it. They shop around. People shop around. They like to try other therapists. They like to try
Absolutely.
and see what the therapists offer, right? Or what they can learn from the therapist. So I'm sure that they're going to ask questions, some of the audience. So I will put that in the description. And can you tell us a little bit about the book? I know you mentioned the book, the new book, a little bit about the book. What direction is that going into?
It's going to be on self-care.
Self-care.
And it's holistic, and it's going to have some similarities to the first book that I wrote, Positive Power Workbook, but it's going to be a lot broader and a lot more extensive, and I'm going to go deeper with it. The first book I wrote, the Positive Power Workbook, I made it pretty simplistic and basic. I wanted something that was very easy to use, but had some comprehensiveness to it. Now, the self-care workbook that I'm working on is going to be far more comprehensive. So I'm getting deeper now with this work.
Yeah, well, that's great, because as I said, the first book is just the right amount. I'll put that right, just the right amount to get people started, right, on their healing journey, on their wellness journey. That's how I found it. That it wasn't so frightening for those that needed some form of healing and some form of wellness in their life. It was just the right amount. But now you mentioned self-care. I find that that's something that a lot of us really have to work on. I mean, even though we say we're doing self-care, but really, are we? How do you find that? Do you find that true with most clients, that the self-care is lacking or limited?
Yes, definitely lacking or limited. And I think a lot of people don't even realize what self-care actually is. There's a couple of different perspectives about it. For example, when I was a kid, I thought self-care was brushing your teeth and combing your hair.
Right.
And there's so much more to it than that. And I think in modern times, a lot of people think that self-care is going to the nail salon, going to the beauty salon, going for a massage at the spa.
Right.
And then self-care has been associated with people who are have some sort of an ongoing physical issue, like diabetes.
Yes, right.
But self-care is so much greater than that. And there are so many aspects of self-care. It's caring for your mind, and caring for your feelings, your emotions, caring for your body, caring for your spirit and your energy. So it's on all levels. And there's so many ways to care for yourself, but the thing is to pick and choose. What are you comfortable with? What feels right for you? What are you drawn to?
And I think that, because I find specifically with women that many of them feel that self-care is almost being selfish, or self-centered, right? Self-centered, maybe self-absorbed. And so they're fearful of delving into what exactly self-care means. And as you said, you can pick and choose what you want to do for self-care, as long as you do something for self-care. But I think that is a stigma that's placed upon women, not only by themselves and each other, but I think society as a whole. I mean, do you find that they're always looked upon as maybe that person's a little too selfish?
Yeah. Because everyone has their own agendas, and they have a certain way of looking at you, or certain wants and needs from you. And if they see you taking care of yourself, then they accuse you of being selfish. But that's where boundaries comes in, and that's one of the things I talk about in my self-care workbook is boundaries, and knowing when to
and how important they are, right? And how
yes,
important they are.
yes.
Exactly. Right. Because if you don't work on boundaries, you could be overrun.
Absolutely. Overwhelming. Yeah.
Yes,
And one of the things with self-care is trying not to be overwhelmed.
Right. Exactly. Oh, I'm looking forward to your book. I'm
Thank
looking
you.
forward to the new book. You said it's going to be out in the spring.
Hopefully. I'm working on it. I'm working away.
And now, do you have a website or somewhere where people find out maybe where you are doing your events?
I do a lot of that on Instagram and Facebook. I just find that people find me more often on Facebook and Instagram, and that I'm able to get my message out there more easily that way. I do have a website, but right now I'm working on it, and it's a mess, and it's not ready for public consumption.
Right. So we can put then the social media listings, then they can see.
Yeah.
Because as I said, I know you do a lot of events, and I think you're getting back to that more now after we can move around more freely.
Yes.
That you're getting back to that more. And so I definitely want to make sure that I list that. But I really want to thank you so much, Conny, for coming on today. I know you're very busy, and I'm so thrilled that you were able to make some time to talk to the audience. These topics are ongoing, right? I mean, the conversations are constantly ongoing. So again, I want to thank you, and hopefully I'll see you. I look forward to coming to one of the events myself. That would be wonderful.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Have a wonderful afternoon, Conny.
You also.
Thank you.
Be well, be healthy, be safe.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.